Here are the 10 best NBA players playing for a losing team this season. That's a team below 500 with more losses than wins as of November 29th, 2022. This list could change as records change. Also, I'm only ranking their current season, not their careers. Without further ado, let's rebound onto that list. In 10th place, we got Paolo Banchero. Paolo is mainly ranked so low because he's only played in 14 out of a possible 21 games so far due to injury, but beyond that, he's having a fantastic rookie season. He's putting up nearly 23 points per game, 7 rebounds, and almost 4 assists per game. The Magic are currently 5-16, so they're still a really young lottery team for now. But as for Paolo specifically, his game reminds me of a mix of Carmelo Anthony and Tobias Harris, especially in isolation situations and in transition. It's hard to say what his true ceiling will be since it's still a bit too early, but he should have a very bright future if he can stay healthy. In 9th place, we have Kyle Lowry. Now, I would put Jimmy Butler here, but he's only played in 13 out of a possible 21 games this season because of injury. The Heat are currently 10th in the East with a record of 10-11. Now, before you blame this record on Jimmy's absence, the Miami Heat have a 6-7 record with Jimmy on the court this season. With that being said, I do not think Jimmy is the reason why this Heat team is losing, because they have roster and injury issues across the board, and the grand irony of all of this is that the guy the world expected to play the least has been playing the most this season. Kyle is the only consistent Heat player so far this season. Even at age 36, soon to be 37, he's putting up 36 minutes per game, something we haven't seen since his prime Toronto days, and he's putting up nearly 15 points per game, 6.2 assists, and 5 rebounds, which is a lot of rebounds for a point guard. In 8th place, we have Keldon Johnson. Coach Pop told us not to bet on the Spurs this season, and while the Spurs do have a record of 6-15 and are 14th in the West, I think this team has been showing signs of life, and that's many thanks to Johnson, who's been putting up 20.4 points per game, and at the start of the season, it seemed that the Spurs were going to be a legitimate playoff team. Obviously, the growing pains have hit, and there have been scoring slumps for the entire team, Keldon included, but the entire Spurs core are really young and are handling it better than expected. In 7th place, we have Anthony Edwards. The Timberwolves have been a bit underwhelming this season with a record of 10-11 and are currently 10th in the West. And things might get harder as Cat recently ran into a calf strain with the recent loss to the Wizards, and this will keep him out for a few weeks. But if you want to think positive, this might also be a next man up opportunity for Anthony Edwards to cover the scoring load and take over this team. Ant-Man has had a solid season so far, putting up 22.6 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. And Cat is actually having statistically one of the worst seasons in his prime, especially his 3-point shooting, which is sitting at 32%, which is even lower than his rookie season of 34% from 3. This is mainly because he's now playing power forward instead of center, but that's for another video. There is still hope for this Timberwolves team to turn things around, and I have not lost hope in Ant-Man's ability to be something special once he reaches his prime. Keep in mind, he's only 21, and he's got a lot of room to improve. In 6th place, we have LeBron James. LeBron would easily be ranked higher, but keep in mind he's only played in 13 out of a possible 19 games this season. The Lakers are currently 13th in the Western Conference with a record of 7-12. But honestly, I don't think it's too crazy to say that this team can sneak into the play-in tournament and try to fight for a playoff spot that way. LeBron, even at age 37, soon to be 38 in a few weeks, is putting up 25.4 points per game, 6 assists, and almost 9 rebounds. I don't know if the Lakers can truly fix their roster issues, but LeBron's greatness should be able to give them a fighting chance for this season despite all the problems. In 5th place, we have Jalen Brunson. The Knicks are currently 12th in the East with a record of 9 wins and 11 losses, but Jalen is having one of the best seasons of his career so far, putting up 22 points per game, almost 7 assists per game, and almost 4 rebounds per game. I could have ranked RJ Barrett into this list, but honestly, I think he's having too many efficiency issues, and while there's still time to turn things around, it seems like he's starting to plateau. However, this section is about Jalen, who is the driving force behind the Knicks at least having a shot in the play-in tournament and maybe the playoffs. As in close games, Jalen is that first option to close out said games. In fourth place, we have Anthony Davis. If LeBron played more games, or played some defense, but we'll talk about that in a later video, he would have been ranked higher than AD, but despite that, let's not forget that Anthony Davis so far is statistically having the best Lakers season of his career on paper. He's putting up 26.2 points per game, 2.3 blocks per game, 1.5 steals, 3 assists, and an insane 12.8 rebounds per game, currently the highest rebounding average in the NBA. Across the board, this is statistically better than his championship season in 2020. On paper, the Lakers look pretty amazing. Their issues, though, are off paper, with a lack of shooting, especially three-point shooting, and overall team defense, despite Anthony's defensive efforts. In third place, we have DeMar DeRozan. The Bulls have many problems this season, but DeMar DeRozan is not one of them, as he's having one of the best seasons of his career, putting up over 26 points per game, nearly 5 assists per game, and 4.2 rebounds. The Bulls are currently 11th in the East with a record of 9 wins and 11 losses, but of course, with Lonzo Ball out of rotation and Zach LaVine underperforming, the fact that the Bulls are still in the playoff hunt and have a strong shot at least making the play-in tournament or even turning things around to having a winning record will be many thanks to the talents of DeMar DeRozan. In second place, we got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Most improved player this year is going to be a very close race with the likes of Lauri Markkanen and Shai Gilgeous at the forefronts. Shai specifically has been absolutely going off this season. He's putting up over 31 points per game, nearly 2 steals per game, and 6.1 assists per game. The Thunder are 12th in the West with a record of 8-13. They do have injury issues, with Chet missing the entirety of this season, and this is still a very young core, but Shai's future is very bright. I would rank him higher, but the guy in front of him is a frontrunner for MVP this season. And in first place, we got Luka Doncic. The Mavericks are currently 11th in the West with a record of 9-10, and despite that, Luka is having statistically the best season of his career. He has a jaw-dropping player efficiency rating of 31, and he has a scoring average of 33.1 points per game, the highest scoring average across the entire NBA this year. He's averaging 8.4 assists per game and 8.7 rebounds per game. He's nearly averaging a triple-double. He's on pace to become MVP this season. The biggest hurdle will be his current record. If the Mavs end up with a losing record by the end of the season, it will be hard to award an MVP on a losing team when there's the likes of Jason Tatum playing amazing on a winning team and having one of the best seasons of his career as well. There's also Giannis and Joel, and Nikola Jokic has been quietly having a PR of 31.2, but the media would probably not give him 3 MVPs in a row. There's also Steph Curry going nuts, but this is not an MVP race video. Let's go back to talking about Luka specifically. I wouldn't blame Luka on this losing record. The Mavs did lose their second best player, Jalen Brunson, to the Knicks, and Luka has been putting this team on his back. The Mavs really need to work to ensure that Luka's prime has some help around him. Luka's craziest stat of all, out of all the amazing things, the craziest stat is his age. He's only 23 years old, he's nowhere near his prime, and he's putting up video game type stats. Who knows how amazing his prime's going to look? To recap, here are the top 10 NBA players playing on losing teams so far this season. 10th place, Paolo Banchero. 9th place, Kyle Lowry. 8th place, Keldon Johnson. 7th place, we have Anthony Edwards. 6th place, LeBron James. 5th place, Jalen Brunson. 4th place, Anthony Davis. 3rd place, DeMar DeRozan. 2nd place, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 1st place, Luka Doncic. Let me know what you think of this list and what you want to see in the future. Don't forget to dunk on that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on. I'm Rebound Rewind, and I'll fast forward to you later.